Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another Entitled Parents Reddit video. In our first story, an entitled dad nearly gets his daughter's arm torn off. Let's jump right in. For background, this happened last year while I was volunteering at a local zoo. I was heading to the lynx enclosure to feed them when I heard some commotion coming from where the caracals and servals were. For an idea on how the layout of the enclosures were designed, the medium-sized wild cats each have a fence and a set of bars to separate them from the visitors, with the fences on the outside as a way to signal to people to avoid getting into scratching distance of the cats. I went there to check, and there was a man, the entitled dad, alongside a girl that looked to be around 5 or 6, who were both past the fence. The girl was sticking her arm inside the caracal enclosure, and one of the caracals was hissing and growling at them, while a second one was sleeping on top of a cat tree-like structure that was built inside the enclosure. "Hey, miss, please remove your arm from the cage." "Why? She just wants to pet the kitties." "Sir, these animals are wild and they are clearly not enjoying her presence." "Well, she likes cats, so she'll enjoy them anyways." "Look, these aren't domesticated house cats. They're a wild cat and they're not used to humans. Miss, please step back now or you're going to get hurt." After I raised my voice, the girl snapped her arm back and looked at me crying. "You will not threaten my daughter." "I'm not threatening her. I'm warning you that these cats are not suitable to be petted." "She's right, you idiot. You're endangering your own child by letting her get this close to wild animals." "I'm not endangering her. It's a cat. They like being petted." "It's a caracal. They look like cats, but they're a completely different animal. You wouldn't let your daughter pet a bobcat, would you?" "Of course not, but this isn't a bobcat." "It's like the same flipping thing, you idiot. There's a reason why these animals are behind cages and fences." "Flip off." "Sweetie, you can pet that cat as much as you want. Don't listen to these fascists." At this point, the girl looks way too shaken from the conflict and doesn't want to pet the caracal anymore, thankfully. The man then stormed away with her while threatening to report me to my superiors, which he did. Thankfully, the zoo's obviously going to side with me. Then I resumed the feeding schedule while the servals looked at me in your typical cat judgmental way after thanking the man that helped me by standing up to the entitled dad. I've dealt with plenty of entitled people while working at the zoo, but holy crap, never thought I'd actually meet a Karen that gets pissed at me for not letting them get their arm ripped off. In story number 2, restoring justice to my neighborhood. For context, we live in an apartment building in Ukraine which does not have great accessibility for wheelchairs or strollers. The main entrance to the building has a steep set of stairs, which limits getting up or down in a wheelchair to being carried by someone else. Because of a boy in our building who is bound to a wheelchair, our yard has come to the consensus of not parking cars right in front of this entrance. There is even a sign on the stairs stating this rule, placed there by the building manager, as to make it easier for the boy, his parents, and carers to bring the chair up and down the stairs. A car parked right in front of these stairs makes this process even more hazardous and dangerous, as it limits the maneuverability of the carrier and leaves very little space to move. Also, there is a small family-owned coffee shop in our building on a corner opposite of this entrance. This will be important later. My mom's 2 best friends in our building are our downstairs neighbor's dog, Golden Retriever, Eve, and our upstairs neighbor, a 13-year-old boy named Caleb, who really likes my mom's knock-knock jokes and her cooking and happens to have cerebral palsy and gets around in a wheelchair. Because of the fact that the stairs outside are so steep, whenever my mom, or anyone else for that matter, meets Caleb and his mom leaving or coming back from walks, they help with carrying Caleb up and down the stairs. This was one of those days. Mom and I are walking out of our building, bump into Eve and her owner, and as we are chatting at the bottom of the stairs, Caleb and his mom come out. As we make our way up the stairs to help Caleb's mom, a random Mercedes pulls up and parks right in front of the stairs. A hoity-toity entitled mother crawls out, followed by 3 kids clad head to toe in Louis Vuitton. None of us know this woman. My mom points to the sign and says, "Please don't park here, we need the space." Ignored. My mom, now slightly louder, repeats herself. Hoity-toity entitled mother glares and says, "We are just going to get a coffee, we won't be long." My mom, now visibly upset, points to an available parking spot 10 meters away and says, "Park there." Hoity-toity entitled mother responds with, "My kids need a drink. We will take 10 minutes. My mom, now pissed, basically tells her to stop being an a-hole and just move her car. Entitled mother retaliates with a, "Why can't you just shut up, crazy woman?" My mom, now yelling, sends her to hell. Eve, who is a rescue dog turned guard dog, starts barking at the entitled mother. She is leashed and has a muzzle on. Caleb chimes in with a killer. "Lady, even the dog knows you're being a bitch." Surrounded, the entitled mother is now being glared at by everyone who is out in the yard. And the icing on the cake? Caleb's mom, who was quiet up to this point, says, "Oh, and please, don't go to my coffee shop. We don't serve people like you." She owns the coffee shop. The entitled mother made a quick getaway. Caleb, Eve, and my mom went for a walk, telling knock-knock jokes. Story number 3, a set of entitled parents changed the rating of our musical. This was a few years ago, but thought I'd share. Just to note, I'm from the UK, so this story was when I worked at the theater, where musicals and plays are put on, not a cinema where films are shown. I have a ton of these stories, so I'm happy to tell more if anyone wants. One evening performance, I was working what we call head door, where I'm in charge of access patrons and restocking bars and kiosks during the show, so I only witnessed what happened to my friend as I did my job. It was the first time our theater had gotten Shrek the Musical, which didn't have an age restriction. All it advertised was family show. Well, one entitled family changed that. It was a regular shift, not too busy. I only had 2 access patrons in, so incoming was easy, so was interval, no issues. As I did my toilet check rounds for the second act, I noticed a patron talking to one of my friends. No biggie, quite usual. I checked one side of the circle toilets, then head over to the other side. Whilst I did, my friend made her way down to a different patron. I guessed a complaint, so I stayed in the wings just in case she needed backup. Theater patrons can be difficult. That's when I noticed the patron she was talking to had a baby. Yep, a baby, only a few months old. The patron, the entitled mother, huffed and left the auditorium. I checked with my friend to see if everything was okay. Yeah, another patron had complained about the baby's noise, so as per our rules, she had to follow up. She suggested the entitled mother just head out of the auditorium for a few minutes until the baby had calmed down. I thought nothing of it. However, it kicked off at outgoing. I had sorted my access patron in the stalls and came up the back way into the circle to find my friend getting yelled at by the entitled mother and entitled father. Since we had such abuse during Mamma Mia's run, we had been told to call security whenever a patron starts to become aggressive. I called it on the radio and ran over. Security and the manager were on their way. The entitled father literally chased my friend out of the auditorium and onto the prom, kind of like a lobby area where their kiosks are. He backed her into a corner, all the while the entitled mother shadowed him, and it looked like he was going to hit my friend. I placed myself between her and him and asked calmly if everything was okay. No, apparently my friend had demanded his wife and baby leave the auditorium and weren't allowed to watch the show. That we were discriminating against him and his wife. He paid good money to see this so his baby could watch Shrek. It was like 6 months old. Could barely lift its head, but okay. The manager and the security guard arrived and I took my friend away from the entitled father and entitled mother who were demanding refunds. My friend to be sacked and all sorts. How dare my friend speak to his wife like that? She was incredibly rude and his whole night had been ruined because of her. Turns out my friend had gotten a noise complaint from several patrons about the baby crying and fussing and, well, being a baby. She spoke to the entitled mother and asked if everything was all right, that if she needed to leave for a few minutes, that was fine. She didn't demand, merely suggested. The entitled mother did, but when she didn't return, my friend went to check on her. The entitled mother was stood huffing and puffing, so my friend said if the baby had calmed down, they can go back in, and that it's absolutely fine to come in and out as the baby needs. The entitled mother had a go at her, saying how rude my friend was being, and that she had every right to stay in her seat she had paid for. Again, saying she was being discriminated against. It's good to note that when we get a noise complaint from a patron, it's our job to go and check it out. Chitter chatter is not on. Neither is using your phone. It's theater etiquette to be respectful to those around you. So if you are being noisy, we're going to ask you nicely to be quiet. The next evening on my next shift, I was told box office had placed our usual age restrictions on there. No under 5s. After discussing what had happened with the company, patrons had been emailed with the revised rules too, strongly pushing home the idea of no babies, please. The parents were kicked out and were blacklisted at the box office after hurling abuse at my manager, who just tried to explain the situation. We get our age restrictions and all recommendations from the company themselves, and they didn't give us one until that incident. To them, family show was all they needed, and they thought they wouldn't get very young children, let alone babies. Therefore, they said we didn't need a restriction. Prove them wrong. Babies, unless it's a kiddie show like Peppa Pig or Teletubbies, don't do well at live theater. Keep your child at home. Everyone in that auditorium has paid good money to see that show. They don't want a screaming baby ruining it. Theater tickets cost anywhere from £10 to easily £300. Don't think people want to hear your baby crying when they've paid that amount. The actors, they don't appreciate it either. This is John from Slash Bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to see more of them, then hit that subscribe button. We would love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.